Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lexa and today I wanted to talk about books that I read during the autumn. I know it's still November, but it's about to be the end of November already and I haven't done as many bookish videos as I wanted during the autumn, so I'd like to get started and talk to you about all the wonderful books I read. So let's get into it. I read a lot of books that were quite hyped or famous during this time, but also a couple of not so well known or new released books. So let's get started with a book that I was sent a copy by the author, and that was The Bloodwalker by Lexa Cain. And this is a mystery novel following a setup of a moving circus, a traveling circus with Russian and Slavic roots, following Rurik, who is the ex-head of security, who is suspecting that one of the circus members is actually a vicious killer who is kidnapping kids in every city they visit, and they are never found again, and Rurik is the only one who is onto him because he is moving together with the circus and he can link the murders between them. This was quite a fun and fast read. It's not too long and it's following two perspectives. One is Rurik, who, as I said, is one of the members of the circus. He is responsible for security and he is also a very kind man, so this is why he wants to set things right and make sure that nobody else dies. And there is also another point of view following Sylvie. Sylvie is one of a Bloodwalker clan, and Bloodwalkers is the most interesting part of the novel. It's a unique premise really. So Bloodwalkers are only women, and this is a society from a very small village in mountains that are basically responsible for tending to the dead and making sure that the rituals and proper burial rites are observed so that the dead are satisfied and that everything is as it's supposed to be. And every Bloodwalker, when she reaches a certain age, is supposed to be married off, so it's a very patriarchal society. And Sylvie is very worried about when her time comes to be married. We start the novel as she's preparing for the day. She's worried because she is not as skilled as the other Bloodwalkers. She is clumsy, forgetful, and the rites don't work as they should when she is doing them, which is why Sylvie is afraid that she's not a real Bloodwalker, and therefore she is terrified that her husband or future husband actually finds about that and she might be cast out. What I liked about the book is not only it has an exciting premise, and following Rurik is also really fun as he hunts down the killer who manages to escape very narrowly, but also Sylvie is an example of a young woman who was born in a patriarchal society. Even though she has an important role, in the end of the day she must marry and she doesn't have a choice with her husband. She just has to wed whoever takes her. And this is something that was also explored in the novel, and I found the perspective of Sylvie very important to learn what position some women might be like. And I liked seeing her switch from being submissive to something else, and this is something that was very important to me because whenever I see a female being very submissive and taunted and talked down by her husband, I feel very upset, even though I know that this is a real representation of some places. But I found that the fact that it was addressed in the novel was quite brave, and I quite enjoyed the read. I gave the book 3 stars on Goodreads, more like 4 because this is a debut novel, but now that time has passed I will definitely give it a solid 3 stars, and I quite enjoyed it. And if you're looking for something criminal but with a fun twist, this will definitely be it. The next book I want to talk about is Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge, and this is a book you probably heard about in the booktube community. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I'm a fan of the Beauty and the Beast story, which is why I really had very high expectations going into these. I suppose after reading A Court of Thorns and Roses I really needed to keep going with something of the sort, so I picked up this book. It was on offer as an ebook, so I went into it. It really was a very fast read, and it's following Nyx, who is living in a household with her sister, her father and her aunt, and being prepped for her marriage to Ignifax, who is the beast alternative in this story. And she's being prepped for the marriage and being prepped for her mission to actually kill this awful beast who has been making deals with peasants all over the country, making their deals backfire, basically this alternative to Rumpelstiltskin. My favorite thing about the story was definitely the beast Ignifex, and Nyx's initial chapters when she comes to him to be his wife. She's very feisty, she's unable to let go of her anger towards him, which is why she is acting very irrationally, and this is the part I really enjoyed. Nyx has very difficult relationships with her family. She is envying her sister because her sister is very much in the limelight, in the spotlight, and Nyx is the one who has to go away, and her sister will get to live out the rest of her days as she pleases, loved by everyone. So that was another aspect that I really liked about the novel, the fact that Nyx was so bitter and angry towards her family, and I thought this would get further exploration by the end of the novel. However, since there is a quite peculiar ending to the novel, it was kind of brushed aside in the end. Things were kind of fixed, but to me it was not a good resolution, not what I quite had hoped. And the finale left me feeling that it was quite a bit rushed, that I didn't get to know the characters enough, and that there was more of the story to be explored. So I think I gave it 4 stars or maybe even 3 because it was good, but it did not live up to my high expectations. So that was the way I was left when reading it. Another book that I read was Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, and this was the 4th book I read by Rainbow, and I totally love everything that she writes. I would swallow up anything she wrote at all, and I got this book as a gift from my friend. Thank you very much, Alex, for sending me the book. It was wonderful reading it, and I feel totally in love with Eleanor and Park. Obviously, they're absolutely wonderful. What I liked about the story is not only there's a lot of geeky nerdiness going on, but it's also so sincere. And it's real. It's the way things are in real life sometimes, and there's a bit of bullying and the harsh background going on, but still, the story is very life-affirming and wonderful, and it just warmed my soul. And I can't wait to read the only book I have left by Rainbow, which would be Landline, which I wanted to read for quite a while, so I hope I'll get to very soon. Obviously 5 stars. Finally, we can talk about books that I actually have in my possession right now. And the first book I want to mention from the ones on my shelf, you can see there's a whole reorganization thing going on behind me. This is The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani. I found out about this book from Bruce Project, and Reagan has really loved the first book. So I went into it expecting a really cool story. It did not disappoint at all. This was a wonderful story aimed mostly at teens, but they totally loved it. It's following 2 girls who are very unlikely friends. It starts with Sophie, who always thought of herself as the good one, the lovely one, the princessy-like one. She's obsessed with makeup, she's obsessed with masks and everything healthy and beautiful. She doesn't like eating sugar, she doesn't like sweets, she likes to keep herself in wonderful shape. Whatever that looks like. And basically Sophie lives in a village that has children disappear every 12 years or so to be taken away without their permission, basically, to the School for Good and Evil, where there are 2 towers, one for the evil students and the good students. The good students, they basically become heroes in their own fairy tales like Rapunzel, Snow White, Cinderella, and the evil towers are breeding those children who become the villains. So basically, the children in the village where Sophie and Agatha live are aware of this because they read about it in the storybooks, and they are very terrified of being taken away to the school because nobody wants to leave their home behind, except for Sophie, who really wants to get into the good school. Problem is, she has a friend Agatha, and Agatha really doesn't want her to go. And the day is nearing, and they are certain that somebody might be taken, somebody might not be taken. Anyway, Sophie and Agatha end up in the school. One problem though, Sophie is not as good as she thought. So Sophie gets into the bad school, and Agatha, who was like this emo kind of girl who is eating weird stuff, doesn't know anything about good manners. Agatha ends up in the good school. Obviously, everybody is freaked out, they don't fit in, there's massive misunderstandings going all over the place, and the girls have to solve their troubles because Agatha really wants to return home. She doesn't want anything but her best friend with her. She just wants to go home. And Sophie just wants to find her happily ever after as a princess with a prince. That was such a fun read. This book definitely flew by. It's a trilogy. Right now I'm reading the second book in the series, and I found that it's quite good. I think the series as a whole will work better than just this book as a standalone, because they're meant to explore the idea of who is good, who is evil, what is right, what is wrong. And the second book really flips it onto itself, and I'll probably talk about it as soon as I finish it, but right now I'll just say that this book is a story of friendship, a story of difficulties, a story of finding yourself, and I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. The last book that I'm going to mention today is basically a book that is quite popular and has found so much recognition in the booktube world. This is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh, and if you can see behind me the spines of the box, I got The Rose and the Dagger as well. This is what I'm gonna read up next. Obviously had very high expectations of Renee Ahdieh. That makes a lot of sense, I think. You probably know the story. There's a king who kills his brides every single day, and there's girls that have to marry him and they are not given a choice, but one girl volunteers, and this is Shahrazad, or Shazi, which is easier to pronounce. Shazi volunteers to be the bride of the king because she would like to get revenge for the death of her best friend who died the night before her volunteering. And she's doing everything in her power to get into the palace. She gets there and she has to live through the night. She has to live through several nights, and she has to wait until she can finally take a stab at the king. Give this book 4 stars. I found it quite beautifully executed. The setting was marvelous. The characters were also very nice, but for me it's what I always feel, it's part of the problem I had with Cruel Beauty as well. There was a lot of build-up, but not quite enough for me. I mean, when a relationship takes a complete 180 degrees turnaround, it is a problem for me to actually feel certain that they know each other well enough to make this kind of a life-changing decision. In this case, I felt that Shazi didn't know the king well enough to be completely head over heels with him. I don't have anything against love at first sight, but this is not the book for it, because basically Shazi is going there with the solid aim to kill the king. Obviously there's book 2, so she doesn't really get there in book 1, which is also a very interesting aspect. I mean, going into the book, I kind of knew it was gonna happen. Obviously that was the point of the series, but I think that something is missing, and there's a lot of build-up for the next book. There's plots going on aside from Shazi exploring her relationship. There are decisions that have to be made, and I'm going to be reading the second book and then giving you a full overview of what I think, because my mind is a bit of a jumble right now. So that was it for this video. I've read another book that I'd like to talk to you about, but I'll include it in a different video later. So let me know down below whether you read any of these books, which ones you liked, which ones are on your to-be-read list, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and watch those videos that are suggested to you. In the end, I hope you like them, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!